So my name is Jay, and I am the vice president of a Loving Space Foundation.
My name is Tamara, and I am the president of the Loving Space Foundation.
So, what inspired you to create the foundation?
It's just getting out into the community, really pretty much community outreach, and just getting people more aware that it takes a village to bring a community together. So that's pretty much the gist of a Loving Space Foundation. We have several programs that lead into each other and merge together, but the gist of it is to bring the community together.
Yeah. Mike, as a kid, I grew up. We both grew up in impoverished neighborhoods, and so really just to just be very simple about why we wanted to do this in the first place is we grew up in these communities, and the communities were really underrepresented. And so as kids, we always felt like that at some point in time when we had the opportunity to make an impact on the community, we would do just that. And so, over the years, we've grown as humans. And so now on this side of things, we just want to come back and do what we're supposed to do for our communities, and which is giving back. We've watched a lot of people become successful in this community. Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County to be exact. We've watched a lot of people become successful, move on to other places, and then grow and build those environments and places. And so no one has taken it upon themselves to say, you know what, um, rather than go to other places and build those environments, which they needed them as well, right? But we'd rather start, right at home where we grew up at.
Yeah, how does it feel for both of you helping the community? How does that feel? How does that help your own mental health?
It helps it out tremendously. So we have a program called Wind the Dot Cleanups, and that came about before I started the organization. I would go out on my AM walks, and it would just be trash everywhere. So I would bring along trash bags with me on my walks, and I would pick up the trash in the community. So that's where Wind the Dot Cleanups really started from. And I just took it further and put it into the organization, and we get volunteers, and we have some boys that we have come out, which is our AAU basketball team. They come out and we go out and clean a community. And as of right now, we have adopted 8 parks within Wyandotte County. So we go out and we clean those. And every time we have a cleanup, it's just like not a huge release, but it's just fulfillment, and it's just amazing that we can go out here and people. And then once we actually are in the parks, people see us cleaning up and they come out and they don't even care about as far as us being an organization or anything. They just come and help us, and we're all working together. Like I said, it takes a village, and that's like the main purpose of everything, just to get everybody together to understand that we can do this together. We can have a better community together.
Mike, I would agree with a lot of what she's saying. Um, but for me, it's just there's an overwhelming amount of joy that we can go out and do some good without having to have cameras or
Right.
without having to post anything or without having to make an announcement about what we're doing in the community. Just to be able to go outside and just start somewhere simple as just picking up trash. There's no greater feeling because you know you're making an impact.
And I saw you said earlier about the AAU basketball team. Can you tell me a little bit about how basketball and community go together?
Yeah, so I grew up playing sports, and a lot of my life experiences came from playing sports, team bonding, uh, helping with the community, learning to do things together. So a big part of my life has been centered around teamwork.
Mm.
And so I learned throughout that it wasn't just about sports. There are so many obstacles that happens throughout sports, whether it's learning how to build relationships with the players, learning how to build relationships with the coaches, and just the whole team aspect of it. I've really learned, and she's played sports as well, so she understands the team aspect of it. But bringing that together from a standpoint of it not just being sports, but what can we get out of sports? And so we put together a group of boys to not just teach them how to play basketball, but to teach them how to operate in life, right? To give them life skills, give them access to opportunities that um, they wouldn't have access to. And so that's just really what we do. We bridge the gap through things that they like. Maybe if it's sports or maybe if it's writing or maybe if it's marketing or something, right? That, that they can take advantage of or take, or um, it's really exposing them to opportunities that they haven't had before.
So I was looking at the website, and the thing that was that popped up to me is Captain Planet. And it it actually basically sums up your organization pretty well. How important is it of, fixing the environment also fixes, people's physical and mental well-being?
Right. It's very important because if you think about it, when you go outside and you see trash everywhere, that is messing up the economy, the environment, the atmosphere, global warming, all that together. Because with the trash going into the landfills and those are increasing and they're going to have to find somewhere else to put the trash and it's ridiculous. And then over here in Wyandotte, when we actually talked to some people within public works and they have no goals for things, so that's where we come in at to assist them to get the community to understand that we need this. We're breathing in all this nasty air and it needs to be fixed, So the Captain Planet thing, like that was my one of my favorite cartoons, but it just sticks with everything because like with all of our powers combined, we can make this happen. So it can be a better place for all of us. And it starts by just picking up a piece of trash and keeping that cycle going every single day. Everybody cleaning up the atmosphere. So yeah, it stems in there.
I didn't watch many cartoons when I was a kid, due to the reason why, I had to grow up a lot faster than most. But I do remember wholeheartedly watching Captain Planet, and Captain Planet really, out of all of the cartoons or all of the shows that will come on for kids, Captain Planet is one of those shows that it really resonated.
Yeah.
And so I've always wondered why we don't have more people like that.
Right.
Right. Again, I was raised by my grandmother, and so um, she always had an attitude of service. It's always, how can I help someone else? How can I be of service of someone else? She always had the attitude of, just because they're not doing it, it doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Right.
You shouldn't have to wait for someone else to do something before you do it. Everything starts with you. And so as I've gotten older, we went back to those old ways of, you know what? It doesn't have to be anything that's spectacular. All it takes is two people to get together and say,
Right.
you know what? We're tired of seeing trash outside.
Right.
And if they're not going to do anything about it, well, just let us start. And then maybe, right, just maybe someone else will see it and it'll inspire them and they'll want to do it.
Right.
And we found, Mike, that by doing that, we don't do a lot of marketing, if any at all. And if we do market, it's more of having people to come out and volunteer as well. But we're not putting together, making it an event of any sort. It was literally just us getting together as an organization, a small organization, and saying, you know what, let's start by picking up trash in our community first. And then people will see. And what has started to happen is while we're picking up trash, like she spoke of, people are seeing us and stopping and coming out and asking, okay, how do we get involved with
Right.
picking up trash? And these are the same things that they're thinking as well, but um, they may not have the representation or may not know how to go about it. And so I believe we have set that example, and so it's just going to grow from here.
Yeah, how has the feedback been in the community?
It's been amazing. We've actually had the mayor come out to our last cleanup. So we've had some really, really good feedback from everything. The community of the organizations, they are really involved. They really love the boys, and we go out and help them out at their events and volunteer and just do the collaboration, vice versa, to help each other out. So it's been really good so far, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. So I'm really proud of it.
What are some of the things you've learned from each other?
You want to start that?
Yeah. I've learned. I pause because there's so many things. She's a special human being, right? And so before you just start answering questions like that, you got to take your time,
Yeah.
right? And so the one thing that I caught from her the most is that she's very loving. She's very caring, not from a cheesy aspect. I'll give you a quick story, Mike, of things that I noticed about her first. So Tam and I met, I would say, in October of last year,
The end of October.
end of October of last year. I was with a friend of mine and his son, he has a basketball team and she has two boys and they play basketball at the same gym that a friend of mine and his son plays at. And so we were just going to watch the game and I was just tagging along to watch as well. And so when we walk in there, I noticed that Tim was on the side, and there was the boys had when they play, they leave their bags and stuff kind of out, and it's kind of in the walk area. And so the one thing I noticed about her was that she was gathering all the bags together to move them out of the way, right? Now, one may think that, well, that is something small or it's unnoticeable, but those are the small things that I look for in a human, right? Who are you when um who are you when no one's looking,
Yeah.
right? And so I noticed that she would do little small things like that. And for me, what we do is we want to find people who genuinely care about the mission, right? Who genuinely care about the kids. And that was one thing that I seen from her that really sparked our conversation of just our passion about the community. We share so much passion about the community. We share the same vision for the community. And so what I've learned from her is that she's very resilient. Um, um, she's very she's very kind. Um, and she's willing to do whatever it is that she needs to do in order to make sure that her kids have everything that they need, not just materialistic. She wants to make sure that they're loved. She wants to make sure that they have opportunities that we didn't have access to. And so a lot of who she is and who she continues to grow into is the reason why I feel so confident about where we are, where we will be, because I've never had a teammate like Tam, someone who cares as much about the mission, um, and not just about the mission and vision. She cares about me as a human being. She cares about what's important to me. She cares about what's important to other people, and she has the ability to see it from different perspectives. Um, she's able to connect with all walks of life, and so I learn every day, Mike. Literally every day, I'm learning something new about her because she continuously pours into. Um, she's very selfless. I mean, there's so much that I could say, but she's very selfless with who she is.
Oh. Excuse me for a minute.
Oh.
Thank you.
And Mike, literally, we work every single day. We go back and forth. It's not always, it's good days and bad days, of course. We have our thoughtful disagreements. And then we have our ones to where, you know how women can be.
Yes.
But at the same time, that's what helps me grow. That's what helps me go. Um, and so to have someone like that that keeps you accountable, like I said, Mike, I could go on and on and on about it, but truly in my heart, I wouldn't rather be with anybody else, right? Because if I was to stop doing this today, she would continue on. I know for sure that she could find somebody to put in my place and not be me, right? But carry out the mission, the mission the way it's supposed to be carried out. So, man, what can I say about it? Well,
you are a special human being as well. Excuse me for a minute, I'm emotional. I could say the same so much for Jay, of course, but the main thing that sticks out and that I've learned from him and about him is to be really more self-aware and to understand what that really means. It's just we can think that we are walking the path that we're supposed to be walking on and we're carrying out what we need to carry out. But if you really don't go deep down inside of you and understand why you have this tick or why you put yourself in this position and actually go back and reflect on yourself, then there's really no point into what you're doing if you can't go back and reflect and say, well, I have done this, I have done that. I've expressed myself in this manner and I have succeeded in that part. He is his brain. Excuse me, I just want to take it out sometimes and lick it, It's just like sometimes he blows me away by the conversations that we have and the things that I have learned from him thus far. It's really been amazing. And we really helped each other grow by leaps and bounds and holding each other accountable for things. And he's really amazing. He really is.
Thank you. Thank
you. So yeah.
Mike, we were just two students at best. And so we just try to learn. We feel like we can learn from everybody. And so we just want people to know that it costs nothing for two genuine human beings to get together and decide to embark on a journey. It costs nothing at all. And so we've all been through some heartbreaks. We've all been in a place to where we could be cynical because humans can be humans, right? But I would say that she is one of the reasons why I constantly stay in a place of just not being cynical. She makes me believe that there is hope. There are good humans out there. Because again, when you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to build something.
Yeah.
you're going to go through so much that at some point in time you start to question if there's any good anymore, right? And when you're in that space, right, that dark space to where you're trying to figure out if the mission is worth it, you meet someone like her and they help you go through it and unravel the things that you have going on with you. And then her on the other side dealing with the same thing. Um, it makes you appreciate because it's a struggle. It's really a struggle. The hardest part about what we do is the people,
Right.
right? Meaning that we're willing to put the work in. We're willing to collaborate. Um, we're willing to do whatever it takes in order to make an impact. But the thing is finding other like-minded individuals, right? And they're out there, right? They're out there, but actually putting yourself in a place to where we all have friends, we all have people that we can hang out with, we all have things that we could go distract ourselves with. But I think the one thing that has been common between the both of us is that we want to make an impact. And we know we can't do that with just us two.
Right.
And so that's why we feel like it's important for people like you, Mike, to have the platforms that you have to um to bring attention and awareness to the people who are looking to connect with other humans that are like-minded.
I like that you said that because a part of my mission is, it doesn't cost anything to give people a platform and let them, help others. So, so thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
So where do you want to see the mission in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, the next 3 to 5 years. As far as we'll go to the cleaning aspect. We have a goal in the next 3 to 5 years to have a cleaning group for each neighborhood group within Wyandotte County. And then we also want to work with Public Works in a way to where we can see how we can get in and help out with the waste management portion of things and get involved with that as well. So that way we can keep Wyandotte County clean and hold people accountable. And then we have some ideas for some laws that we kind of want to put in there so that way we can have the village be held accountable and not just the organization going out and cleaning up. Everybody needs to be held accountable because that's the only way it's going to work.
Also, Mike, too, I don't know if you've seen, but we also have a transitional affordable housing piece as well. And so basically what we are is community outreach and youth programming, right?
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, the idea is that there are a lot of homeless people on the streets, right? And we know that, right? An overwhelming amount of
Yeah.
homeless people, right? We'd like to provide opportunities for them, right? There are a lot of homeless people that sleep in parks. There are a lot of homeless people that, sleep everywhere, right? But what's the opportunity we can provide for them as well, right? So for us is small things as, okay, an incentive, a program. Okay, you may have a park or an area, right, that you sleep in by picking up trash, right, and logging that trash, if you will. That gives you an opportunity because I know at one point in time, Mike, I was a nomad, heavy nomad, meaning that I was my most happiest when I had nothing, right, by choice, right. It gave me an opportunity to clear my head of all of the quote unquote distractions. It gave me an opportunity to clear my head of what I thought was responsibilities or what I thought was priority, and it put me in a place to see what's really important. And so through all of that, I found that it wasn't the money, it wasn't the car, it wasn't the job, it wasn't the house, it wasn't any of that. it was peace of mind, right? And so once I experienced that, I started to kind of pull back off of being so heavy on we need to put every homeless person in the house, because I would spend time with homeless people and they were happy. They were happy with where they were, not complacent, right? They were happy with where they were. And if they wanted to go out and have a house or have a car or do all of those things that, you know, majority of us do, then they could do that. But I found that very interesting that you had people who didn't have a home but was okay with that, right? And so for us, we'd like to implement programs, right, within the community, one of them being cleanups, right, that not only provide opportunities for our boys, right, but it provides opportunities for the entire county. It's a model that we'd like to create where people would start to um, adopt that model, right? And just going back to the transitional housing piece of it, if you're homeless, right, or if you're in need, or if you're underrepresented, right, there's an opportunity, right, for you to not be in need, right, or for you to not be underrepresented, because you can come out to the parks or the streets or whatever area that trash is, right? You can come there, pick up trash, and then maybe get a place to stay or a room or something to eat or a resource of some type that can help you get back to where you need. And um it's not always a room or it's not always food. It may be therapy, right? It may be some psychological help that you need, mental health that you need, right, in order to get you back right. Because just because you have a room or some place to stay, it doesn't mean that everything here is okay, right? And
Right.
we understood that in order to get to the core of homelessness, the core of pollution, you have to start here first, right? And so we want to connect with other professionals that are in those spaces that understand it far more than we do. We just know that there's a need and we can't do it by ourselves, right?
Yeah, with all your programs, how important is empathy in your mission?
I believe that's the most important piece
Yeah.
of it all. To have the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes rather than judge them, rather than condemn them about what they're doing. How about you think about all of the things that you could have been judged for or you could have been condemned for? Because I know my life and I'm very honest about who I am and what I've been through. And so when I get to a point to where I feel like I have the right to have an opinion on something, or I feel like it's okay to speak on something, in that moment when I feel that way, I take a step back and say, okay, what happened when you did this, right? Did anybody do that to you? Or how do you know they're not going through something to where, and so I ask these questions before I start judging or before I get too deep on that. At least, again, we're all human, right? So in that moment, you may make a judgment, but I feel like in that moment, when I have a sense of compassion, I have a sense of empathy, it allows me to take a step back and come up with more solutions, right? Than more problems, if you will. So empathy is just the key of it all. Because without empathy, we wouldn't even be out there. We wouldn't feel like we should be out there picking up
Yeah.
trash. We wouldn't feel like we should go out there and help take care of people that don't have access to resources. So when we do what we do, we go with that in mind and not with our agenda, right?
I say empathy plays a huge part in it as well, but you also have to have the integrity. If
Yeah.
integrity is not there, then it's really not going to work because you're going to constantly worry about what this person is thinking and what that
Mm.
person is thinking. Why am I really doing this? What is the purpose of me being here? Instead of saying, hey, this is what we need to happen right now. Let's go out there and let's do it regardless if it's one of us, if it's two of us, if it's 10 of us, if it's 15 of us. We're going to go out here and we're going to get the job done, regardless whether if anybody's looking, if anybody's recording, social media, or whatever. We're not even worried about that. You go out and get the job done that needs to be done, whether anybody is looking or not. So empathy and integrity plays a big part of it.